This meeting is being recorded.
And share my screen. So this is the IRB landing page. When you create a study, you begin on your IRB page, your home page. You have a way to create a study. There's all kinds of tutorials how to do this on the IRB ASU page. When you create your study, you'll see all these little pop-ups appear. At the top here, you see pre-submission, pre-review. They're all steps you'll go through. This first page will be all blank. These are all notes between me and the IRB person when I was working on this study. So Tiffany Dunning here was a person from IRB reviewing the study for the most part. So there are comments back and forth between she and I as we did different changes. But the first thing I'll do is you'll have a chance to view your study. It's a modification now because it was changed so many times. You'll see it in study. I'm going to click this on right here. See this? And this goes from different pages of the study. So the first one, I think it'll say a new study in your case. You just click that box. There'll be a little bit different labels, but the same look and feel, right? I think it'll be a new study in your case or new submission. I'll go back over here and click continue after I click off the right box for it. You have to fill out questions, typically drop down yes, no, or fill in the blank about these questions on the study information. Enrollment status, you'll both be checking no one's enrolled yet. Notification of subjects, that hasn't happened yet for either one of you. I think summary is not going to be there for you. This will be the basic information. You're going to enter the title of your study, a short title, a brief description. I think I'll be the principal investigator, perhaps. I think you cannot be one, I believe, but you can certainly be the one who's entering the information.
Okay.
Financial interest, the answer is no. Will an external IRB act as the IRB of record? The answer is no. We'll have an external IRB apply, but we'll have ASU IRB be the one on record we're working with. And we'll have other external IRBs from the two countries actually report back to us their eventual approval letter to file with our ASU IRB. The document, I'll show you that right now. This is what you've already seen. It's basically the Word document that describes the study using the IRB protocol. I'll open that up right here for you.
Okay.
So you're both going to take this and create your own protocol. And you can begin almost by literally copying and pasting, creating the exact same original study with different names and countries just for your country only. You know, in the past, we had all the countries in one IRB. That became very unwieldy as the project grew. That's why moving now to have each one of you do your own country and your own IRB, much cleaner and easier. So again, you can use the same background. If you have time later on, you can certainly choose to make this more unique by doing your own research, for example, rather than having a summary of this covers integrated healthcare in Asia. You could talk about integrated healthcare in Vietnam or Phnom Penh. All right. But for now, if you're feeling pressure to get started, just using the exact same one is fine. That's not plagiarism in this case. We're extending the study again. You have plenty of time to tailor this to your own work as the weeks unfold ahead. So I'm not going to go over this in detail. You saw it already, I think, so it's just the whole document here. I will go over for a second. The background is more literature review equivalent. The research questions won't change here. Hypotheses won't change. But you will likely begin adding a new section on workforce training, each one of you. You'll describe, the workforce need, and the basic story is going to be in Asia. The workforce consists of physicians and/or nurses who are trained in medical procedures only. Patients who have chronic medical or behavioral problems are typically only seen for medication as a first and only treatment. There may be occasionally community health workers working who are lay paraprofessionals, but there's a great need to have workforce training both for the current physicians and nurses to understand what integrated behavioral health is, even to train them on the study we're doing. What is the HRA? What's integrated behavioral health? What's the provider survey? And or to actually do some more in-depth training on interventions. How do you do behavioral activation for depression? How do you do mindfulness for anxiety, for example? And those should become more clear as you begin working with your hosts in the weeks ahead. So you can add things later on, but it'll just be adding more detail to these sections.
Mhm.
The data use, this will be very similar to be used by DBH program, by you, by the other universities, with the goal of publications, presentations. The inclusion is pretty basic here, won't change much. We're looking at patients, and for the patient portion who have type 2 diabetes and hypertension, and for clinicians, really any clinicians who are providing clinical services in these settings.
Okay.
Number of participants, we have been using for the patient section 100 per site. Let's keep that for now. I have not gotten funding approved. I hope to do that soon. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
Mhm.
And if you have more than one site, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's start with that, though.
Okay.
As you hear feedback from your sites, how many sites they have, how many sites they want to obtain, we can talk about that. There's no magic to 100. So if you're doing, for example, Charisma 4 sites in Phnom Penh, maybe find just to have 25 or 30 patients per site rather than 100 per site.
Okay.
So it's a total number that's important. The more there are differences between populations at these sites, the more it's important to try and get a bigger sample from each different site. If they're similar, it's less important.
Mhm.
For the clinicians, we didn't have an exact number set, I don't think, here, but our goal was to get at least 10 per site, I believe. Yeah, one clinic leader for the PIP and at least one clinician, or 10 clinicians per site. The recruitment talks about recruiting participants who are both clinicians and then patients. You can change the timelines to match your timelines for May through August.
Mhm.
Almost the exact same procedures are going to apply to each one of you. Risks, benefits will all be the same. You can certainly enter the setting. Here's, get more information and plug in brand new your setting. I'll take out the names from the prior students. You can add your own name and your information here. You should both complete your IRB training if you haven't done that yet, so work on that soon too.
The one that we had to do for the CP1, is that I think it was like the first.
That's sufficient.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
This talks about is the multi-site research. I think for each of you, you'll like to be doing multi-site research. You can just begin with one site when you're clear about that. If you have more than one site, you can put that down. Where it's my talking about my role doing multi-site, to be you talking about I'm doing 3 clinics in Hanoi, 3 hospital clinics, and 1 cancer hospital. I'm doing 4 community health centers in Cambodia. You can both get more information, fill that in. I'm working on, by the way, I'm not sure I mentioned this last time or not. We need to have a better way of collecting data to describe each site, like a drop down. This is a hospital unit or a community health center. The staffing is, X number of physicians, X number of nurses, X number of health workers. How many patients are seen? What kind of patients are seen? Is it urban or rural? We need information so we can begin having better profiles for the sites we're trying to address. So I'll work on that draft and share it with you as I develop that. When that's complete, you can add that as something we add here for our instruments we're going to be using for the study, but it's not ready yet.
Okay.
Resources, you can use the same resources, just take my first person out and, put the people here who are going to be supporting the project. That'd be me, Dr. Kessler. We're going to be having support. I'm going to add to the study also, both this old study as well as your new studies. A DBH student, Jen Rolfs. I don't know if you know her, but she's also a biostatistician. And she's been the one who put together the database for USAID data for 2017-18. And she'll be working with both you guys to help make sure you have a new database shell for your database with the goal of having you be able to enter data and then report it more close to real time as you're working on the site, rather than waiting to get back and having a lag there. Data management and confidentiality won't change at all. Safety monitoring won't change. The consent process won't change. Just the summary for both of you, the consent process is you're going to both, at least if we use the same procedure as last time, you both have at least one research assistant who's going to help you in each site. They'll introduce you to the site. They'll help, you can train that person on the site protocol, what the site is about, how to do it, making sure the consent forms are all ready and translated. It may be that the other one's actually doing the study administration themselves. You might say, okay, I want you to go out to all the physicians and nurses and get them this questionnaire and pick it up from them within X number of days. And you might be involved walking with them, you might not be involved, but you're going to oversee their work. For the patient HRA in the past, we had basically those assistants go into the clinic with or without the student, depending on how much time it would take, how long the student was available. And simply as patients walked into the clinic, they approached that, they met criteria, hypertension, type diabetes, and would ask them if they want to do the study and do the consent forms right there. It's all, of course, in Vietnamese or Khmer, so you can't talk. You can certainly observe, though, as they're doing that work. That's how basically the studies work. And I do expect both of you have a chance to interact with key clinicians. There will be enough individuals, either universities you're tied to or in the hospitals and clinics who speak English. You can still have people you're talking to and getting first-hand information from yourself as part of your work. There's no investigational drugs. You'll put your city training information in here. And that's the form you'll be working on. So I think I already gave you this template. You can just kind of, you can get a new template if you like, or you can just use this one here. You can download this one again and just begin using this to rename it as your own and kind of cut and paste if it's faster that way. It's your choice there.
Okay.
I'd probably advise you just copy and cut and paste rather than trying to create a new one. It's just be faster that way. Let's go back to the screen here. There are no funding sources. The study team members just be you, nobody else, of course, and me, Mohammed, and Jen Rolfe. For each person you enter, you need to have their ASU right ID to enter their information, I think. So we have to share it with each other as part of our work here.
Okay.
When you enter a name, you do a search here basically to enter a person. And typically your email will self-populate, but it may not. If it doesn't, you have to have help from IRB, from Susan Matoski, to find the name and add it manually.
Will the right ID show up as well? Or do we need to get that from?
You have to enter that. You have to enter that. Request that when you're doing the data entry, I think.
Okay, so we need to request that from you and General.
That's your ASU, right? When you sign on to the ASU, your ID. Like mine is on my ASU is RRODONNE.
Yeah, I was thinking you were saying we needed it for everyone. No, just us?
You just need it for yourself. And as you enter
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right. If you enter my name, I think you need my ASU right too to enter me.
Okay, so then we will need to get that from each person.
We can just share it by email with each other.
Okay.
The study scope, are there external sites? The answer is yes. Is there any kind of drug? No. You can enter your external site information here. It's like a drop down. You just enter your site person's name, their email, their phone number. I think they'll both have external IRB review.
Okay.
And here's the fun part. This is what drove me crazy the last 2 years. So I had all the consent forms for all the sites in one IRB study. It got bigger and bigger and more different languages. It drove the IRB people at ASU crazy too. So at the bottom here, hang on for a second, we'll go to the very bottom. There's recruitment materials, supporting documents, and consent forms and materials. So I'll go over all of them just to give you what they are. The supporting documents are more of the actual questionnaires. And what you see at the very bottom, I put in, first of all, the English version of the provider survey, the PIP, and the health risk assessment. Just the English version was put there first. Then I put the version for each country in parallel. So for each of you, you're going to put in the English provider survey, PIP, and health risk assessment, and then the Vietnamese ones. You can basically open these up right here, click it on. is a download, and you can then enter it again. Here's the Vietnamese PIP.
That's cool.
Yep. Now, we had problems in the past years with some of the questions not being exactly right between sites. That should be resolved now, but I'll make sure before I go forward, I spend time with a fine-tooth comb going over the exact questionnaires you do copy and paste. These should be correct, but we'll double check that just to make sure. Like, for example, in one year we had, in 2017, the HOA has a question called the SMAC Symptom Scale 8, and they dropped one of the questions out the first year, just we missed it. So we're trying to avoid those kind of problems and be consistent across sites. So that's the study documents. You'll add later on under this, hang on for a second. Good. So there's finalized documents. That's what I was going over just now, the actual, oh, hang on a second, wait a second. See, I was going crazy, you guys, it's horrible. I think you begin with this section right here, I do believe. And I'll help you out as you open these up, and I'll look at your shelves too as you get them opened up. But they're basically the study materials. Next is recruitment materials. And you can look at these. We have, again, the English version at the very bottom, a recruitment flyer for the patients, a provider recruitment flyer, a research assistant attestation form. That's the form that the research assistant fills out saying I was trained by you in the study procedures. A script for the research assistant to use when they talk to the patients or providers. All right. We have a specific RA attestation filled out for each person. So I'll give you an example. This is the form we have to have them fill out for attestation that they were trained. So here's the person at the Chiang Mai site filling out and signing that they were trained on these categories. You can use exact same categories, and I think the blank form is in here for you to use. And they sign at the bottom like this. That's all you have to do. You'll train them when you get in country and do this after you enter the country. Some things aren't going to be done until you get in the country, basically.
So when we train them, is there a curriculum that is already established to use to train them? Or?
I can find a PowerPoint used last year, yeah. I'll make a note. I'm not sure it's in here, but we did have one, so I'll check on that.
Okay.
It may even be possible to do training by Zoom in advance. You're going to be ideal to have all this done before you go there, so we'll wait and see. It depends who your trainers are going to be. It may be, for example, you can, as a matter of fact, I'm sure in order to get the IRB approval before you leave, you can train your host on the procedures and then become an RA, sign the form, and we can approve the IRB that way before you go. Then if you go to country and need more RA support, you can train new people, add the updates as a modification, and it'll get approved in real time as you go forward. The goal this time is to have you guys have this all done and approved before you leave, as well as having the IRBs begin, if not finished, at the other host country sites before you go also. In ASU, the IRB turnaround is very quick. You'd be very surprised, typically a couple days. There are often more and more questions asked, but given we've done it so many times before, at least for the basic study, should be fewer questions than in past times. It'd be less confusing to them also, being just the same country in one study also. So an external site contacts is the first part, consent forms, recruitment materials. These here are the basic English consent forms from the ASU IRB, already in their blank forms to use. And then recruitment materials in the foreign countries, supporting documents. So you can basically, you'll have access to this. You can go back and forth between your blank one and this one and try and begin populating your new one. It's much simpler, easier to fill out. If you have questions, you can let me know as you're doing it. I'll be available for you.
Okay.
Can you save and then go back in?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yep. Go down to the bottom. This one already has, wait, hang on for a second. This one's already completed, so that has no save button, but I'm sure it has you can save and finish. And this is my recall. When you see it up here, it says finish, the last page. When you click finish, if you still aren't really done, that's okay. That means it's saving everything you did. And then to actually submit this, when it's all finished, ready for IRB review, you'll then have a little box here saying submit. That's the last step you take when everything's done. So you can finish multiple times, go back in again and add it and do more things until you're ready to submit. When you submit, it'll be like blue on this left side here, pre-submission. As you submit, it'll go through each phase, and the dark blue will come here, and the dark blue will go there. There'll be clarification. You keep on going back and forth until it gets to the final review complete, and you get a letter at that point, a memo saying it's complete and reviewed. Let me stop for a second. I know that's I covered a lot of ground. Do you have questions?
I'm sure we will have plenty as we get in there.
I think you'll find a big advantage having access to the old study and creating a new one from scratch. It's going to be much easier for you. It's very easy to use system. It's very intuitive, and I think you'll get the hang of it very quickly. And again, the good news is once everything's done, there'll likely be some questions and clarifications for each of you. They're very fast turning things around. So you should probably begin thinking about, after you have a chance to spend this week and next, entering and tooling things around, getting a projected date for submitting it. And then we can also, as soon as you're ready to submit, give the actual same information protocol to each country. You'll give them a copy of your IRB template, the Word document. They'll use that to create their own IRB application. And in the past, those countries typically took a few weeks' time, maybe a little bit more for Phnom Penh because they had to go through an external organization. But because the study was already reviewed and approved there, I guess you can use the same one, at least for the original study, and do a new submission for the new enhancements you're going to do once you're in the country or before then. That make sense?
Yes, it does.
For Vietnam, we did different, city, Ho Chi Minh, and different university, but they had university IRB, and that was pretty straightforward and quick. Most universities are pretty quick, 3 to 4 weeks maximum in our experience. In Phnom Penh, we had to go to a Ministry of Health Ethics Board, it's called. It's not part of university, it's part of the Ministry of Health. They had meetings once a month. They had to go through a formal review with the student or a colleague present to kind of walk it through. So my hope is because it was approved last time, we use the exact same approval to redo the basic part of the study now and go back to that board again, then a new workforce training you'll be doing, either for you on your own to go there or else have someone else go in your place before you launch there. But it's complicated. We've been there and done this, so that's the good news. How's the class going for you guys?
It's not too bad. Like, it's just those blogs. They still take up a lot of time, but I've gotten the hang of them now.
They are so time consuming.
I've heard that.
They really
are.
are.
So many, right?
It is, I think, and honestly, I feel like it should be broken up into 2 courses. One focused on the global development, and that's just a course in itself, and then the other focused on USAID. Because it's so much, and it's in such a short period of time. Do you feel like that, Charisma?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. It's almost just overwhelming, and every week it's like, oh, here's some more stuff, and oh, here you're going to be doing this, and here you got to do this, and it's like, where did that come from?
That's the common experience for all the students. Feeling university is a very, not hard in terms of the content, but just a lot of time commitment to get it all done, and a lot of information coming at you that's new, not connected well, not clear. So do your best. You're both persevering and hanging in there, it sounds like, and it'll be over before you know it. You'll be landing soon and hopping into new countries to explore and have adventures.
Yes.
Absolutely.
When I finish my submission for this Jumpstart grant on Friday, I'll send both of you a copy so you see what I did. I'll be mentioning both of you not by name, but as students in these countries as part of the support for the project. The project is reviewed and then approved, I think, in May for funding right after that. So it fits well with your timing if we are funded. It's a big if. What else can I say? That's all I have. That's all I want to accomplish today. So what I'll do is follow up.
Mhm.
I'll contact both of your hosts tonight, which is the morning of their time.
Mhm.
I'm going to have them both expect you to contact them directly and schedule a meeting.
Okay.
Okay? I want to give this transition to you, your responsibility. You can CC me. I'll try and join you. If it's at all not unreasonable, I will join you for those meetings unless I have some unusual conflict. You can be the ones running and scheduling that, okay? I want to give you the
Okay.
authority and the control so it's more of your own project. Okay with both of you?
That's fine with me.
And you can feel free to go back and forth in email, discuss, and especially focus on the workforce training component, what you can be doing. You may have to, push your folks to um, be clear and specify what they want you to do, where and when.
Okay.
Do focus, as we mentioned last time, as soon as you start talking to them about helping you to find a place to stay, given your budget constraints and the university location. It'd be more complicated, of course, for Charisma if you change locations. So we need to look at that also, how that's going to map out. And I'll join that conversation to help you with that. But that's going to be more challenging for you.
Okay.
So I think if I had to summarize for next steps would be both begin your IRB, building your submission, both begin closing with your host contacts, and begin working on a time frame for completing the IRB, giving a copy of your IRB to the host country for them to use if needed, and trying to kind of reverse engineer from the end of the class in May. How can we have the ASU IRB done by then, the host IRB done by then, and you guys ready to go with your apartment signed up before you leave? That's the new gold standard for you guys.
Okay.
Not all done in advance last couple of cycles, so we're trying to really improve that with both of you. I'm very confident we can do that, but there's still a lot of work to do, and it's always a challenge because you're going to find both your hosts are great, but they're all busy doing many things. Oh, one more thing I want to mention. Your host or host contacts may bring up budget issues, requesting money. Just defer to me on that. If you try and answer that, it's going to get messy. That was always a problem in the past. I tried to share budget information with students in the past. That ended up being problematic because like anybody else, they're going to try and shift the angle to get money for things as much as they can. And I want to separate you from that process. I'll be submitting soon an ASU request for approval for funding for the patient attentive. And as soon as I'm sure about the scope of your projects, how many clinics, how many patients, things like that. And that covers my topics. More questions you guys have?
Dr. O'Donnell, I did have something, and we actually didn't cover it last week, and we were, I think we were supposed to, about the conference.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I know that had to be at the same location, so Charisma and I both would go to the same conference according to Mohammed. So I figured we needed to, I guess, discuss that with you together as a group.
Yep. My recommendation is well, first, you can both have a closing conference meeting on your own with your hosts and stakeholders.
Okay.
We'll support that. We can't really afford to have, I think, both you go travel to each other's country for a meeting. I would probably recommend we do the closing meeting in Vietnam.
Okay.
And the rationale for that is we may be able to invite the Ho Chi Minh colleagues to come, either in person or remotely. Even though they aren't going to be involved in your study, they're still invested. They'll be doing research, hopefully, with us, publications, and talking about the research with us. So I'm going to join you. And I think it'd be easier to have that larger group. You're going to have more stakeholders in Hanoi, I think, with medical university, health centers, and the cancer hospital, maybe a psychiatric hospital too. It'd be hard to have all those folks travel to Phnom Penh and have the Phnom Penh folks travel.
That makes sense.
I think the Phnom Penh folks won't be offended. They'll be happy to have a chance to travel if we can get them to travel there also, but I'm not sure we can. We might get funding for one or two of them. I'll talk to Mohammed about that.
Okay.
In the past, we did not fund that, so it did not happen. We told they can voluntarily go, but none of them took us up on that. So there's more chance for both of you to be together with me and Mohammed, hopefully. It also means Muhammad getting approval for me and him to come out there at the same time too. We've done it the last 2 years, but it's always been like pulling teeth getting budgeting for that. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay.
But back to planning, we should maybe begin thinking about, as soon as you have a better sense of your activities on the ground in your countries, the original study being done, followed by workforce training or a combination of both. Think about, I think I gave you a project plan already early on, when we're going to have everything done, having time to analyze data, and then do wrap-up meetings, even small meetings with your physicians and nurses or health workers, with your research assistants, going over results, and one big meeting at the end. Is there anything else I'm missing, Christina, for the actual planning? We need to have a date, things like that, but we've kind of decided right now to be in Hanoi. You'll both, Chris will travel there. That'll be included in her budget.
Yeah, I think that was really it. He just wanted to make sure, because he mentioned, he said, I want both of you to be able to present out at a huge, national conference, and to have the opportunity to do that. And so he wanted us to kind of figure out, I guess, as a group, where that would be, so that he could put that in the budget for travel.
Thinking out loud, because it's so inexpensive to fly back and forth from Vietnam to Cambodia, and housing is so inexpensive, it may be useful to have a final conference in each country. You both go back and forth to attend. And this is new because we had multiple students. That wasn't feasible in the past, but I think now it might be feasible. What do both of you think?
So you're saying that we would
have one closing conference with all 4 of us attending in Vietnam, and one closing conference with all 4 of us attending in Cambodia.
If that is in the budget. I mean,
I'm not opposed to that at all.
I'll talk to Mohammed, because again, the budget, the actual dollars for that, doing 1 versus 2, it's almost negligible. I'm literally, the flights are less than $100 round trip, I think. Hotel's like $50 or less if you get, value-based decent hotel there. So it's very inexpensive. And to have one of you spend 3 days somewhere, it's gonna be like $200 probably. So my guess that would be something that's feasible. And as I think more about the study, as we evolve, we're going to have multiple sites in Cambodia. So if we can find one central location, whether it's Phnom Penh or Siem Reap, and have people from many sites come together in Cambodia, that'd be great. And make it a formal thing with me and Mohammed being there, and Christine, you also could benefit from seeing them, and do the same thing in Hanoi. Maybe even invite from Hanoi, the Ho Chi Minh folks from the last 2 years to come into that meeting. We also have colleagues from SAMHSA doing work that we know in Hanoi. We have colleagues from the AIMS program from Washington University in Phnom Penh. So let's give some more thought to a grander scale conference, as long as we're not covering the expense of those individuals. And we do have some funding for the host, but it's very, very modest. They don't need much money to do a conference there.
Okay.
Now I'll be building in extensive travel meetings to my Jumpstart conference. I plan to spend, if it's approved, at least for me, a week in each country, working with each of you, doing like focus groups on the PIP in different sites, and going to Thailand, also maybe China too, as part of that grant. So keep our fingers to get that funded, because that'll be good for all of us and for the countries. There'll be more money funded for them to do things. I'll do my best.
Okay.
Other questions?
I don't think so. I don't think I have any right now.
Just, I did have one question. So in terms of going into the system, we would just go in and create like a login as if we were in any system. How does it work if you've added us? Do we need to go in under your name, or?
I think you go on your own and create one yourself first.
Okay.
You add me as the PA. I think you add yourself as a co-investigator, I think. It's been a while, but I know it's simple to get started. And there are instructions built into the IRB how to do it. If you have any questions, you can talk to me, or I connect you to our IRB. Once you build the study, it's built, and it's alive. You have a person assigned from ACR IRB to help you with this. And
Okay.
So you're saying you're just going to give us access to go in and see your old one in the
Yeah,
system?
that's what I'm doing here. You'll see a study
Okay.
here, the study 00065 PT. You'll be able to go into this, and you'll be
Okay.
able to go and create a new study under your name as a co-I.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep. Again, if you have questions, feel free to email me in real time so I can stay on top of this with you. It will be in touch more often. I forgot to make this a repeating meeting. I'll make this a repeating meeting. I'll go ahead and add it next week to the rest of the semester, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Arizona time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Okay.
And I also share the recording of this meeting with you. This is more we use Zoom to record and put into our course shells, but I can also use Zoom and put it into a YouTube video channel. So I'll do that so you can both view this again if you need to.
Okay.
Not sure you will, but in case you do, I'll find a new channel to put this into and give you guys access to that.
Thank you.
That'll be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any questions? Hit me up.
All right.
You're working hard in the
Thanks.
class, guys. All right, nice seeing you again.
You too. Thank you, Dr. O'Donnell.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Charisma.